All right, welcome back. Before we can get into the conversation of the by-election that happened over the weekend, as we saw, let's wrap up this conversation of corruption. And Honorable Anthony Oloch, the issue of the handshake. If corruption was in that package of the handshake, and the Jubilee government under Uhuru's regime fails to put a stop to corruption, if they fail to show action, do you think that ODM will fall out from the handshake?
Well, let me say this. You see, ODM is in this because they believe that it was in the best interest of the country. I believe the Prime Minister believed that the President had the best interest in the heart when they said, let's try and fix this. And I think one of the things they said they would fix was the issue about corruption. I have said before that Uhuru's legacy will not be secured by these other things he said about universal health. I don't know where it is at. The issue about housing and all these things. With all this corruption, I don't think he's going to get anywhere on it. The one thing I think he could clutch on, and which is why some of us have gone all out to try and support this thing, is that when you fix corruption, you automatically will be able to get more money into hospitals, more water access, security will be fixed, employment, all those things come in automatically.
Allow me to interrupt you.
Yes.
You saw in his speech last week clear signs that he is tweaking sort of the war on corruption. If you compare what he read in Namibia vis-a-vis what he read last week, clear difference. Yes. How patient is ODM?
I think he damaged himself. I understand perfectly that he cannot fight this under a very porous, poisonous atmosphere. It is very poisonous when you see these guys are poignantly expecting the bubble to burst. That you've been told, you know, you're on the door and you're on your way out. He could tactfully try to bring that down and then pounce. But I don't know whether that's what the president is trying to do. When he seems to have said and poured cold water by saying that we will not fight corruption by these vigilante things. And you could see that the DPP side was waiting to excel. I don't know how long we can stay in here. And like Oburu, I will say, this is a question only Raila can answer.
How long ODM will stay in the handshake?
And so long as he is there, we support him. And I believe with all my heart it was well-intentioned. But everything that is well-intentioned could also turn otherwise.
I'll interrupt you because I want him to come in. You laughed when I asked how long will ODM stay in the handshake. Why?
Well, two things, first of all. I think the handshake, I fully support the handshake because of the calmness it has brought into this country. Business is thriving because there is reasoning where we're now seeing. But you ask a very good question. I think, for me, I'll answer it precisely. As long as the president stick to the 9-point agenda that they discussed with the Prime Minister on the BBI initiative, then we will support. But the moment they move away from the, implementing the views of the BBI initiative, then of course we will just walk away. You will just walk away. We will walk away.
Is this Raila's perspective? Is it your personal?
I'm giving my perspective. Okay. I mean, as a leader, I give my perspective. Okay. I'm part of and parcel of the BBI. And I think one thing is clear. We're not very clear on what this handshake is all about. The only thing we are clear about is that it has brought sanity into this economy. The economy is thriving. When you look at the budget policy statement, we've got a projection of 5.6% economic growth in the country. That, to me, is more important. Well, we have to bring in, we have to make sure that we have money circulating, because you know very well, Oloch and I thank God that he's now walking, with both his feet, because, I mean, we nearly lost our lives during the resist period, because we are fighting for what we believe is right. But when our leader told us, calm down, I think we can be able to, to save this country for the future generation, we decided to do so. And
speaking of fighting for what is right, part of DP allies feel that they've poured cold water on the BBI, saying that it has done nothing. It has nothing to showcase since it was brought about.
No,
do you agree?
I disagree, because I think
so what has BBI been able to do?
I mean, I was able to give my views to the BBI, to tell them what is ailing our society from my community point of view. And we have got 47 counties. These guys are still going around. It's too early to say that they have not achieved anything. They have collected the views. Let them collect these views, and then let's have this conversation to see how we can be able to progress. Because if you give me a task today and you expect me to give you miracles tomorrow, I mean, there's nothing.
But my question is, who drew the terms of reference of BBI?
The two individuals.
So is it about them or is it about Kenya?
And that leads me to my next question about Kenya. What do you feel that President Uhuru Kenyatta should do in terms of taking responsibility since he took over office back in 2013?
Whatever has happened or has not happened during his time, he'll be squarely responsible. Even this issue of corruption.
So what responsibility do you want to see him take?
Tell me, when you talk about the times of Moi, do you remember who his finance minister was?
No.
No. We talk about Moi. So I told President Kenyatta the other day, remember, it is you.
You told him we are face to face?
I mean, here, where I don't need to call him.
You don't need to call him, you are here.
He's listening now. And he knows. And I'm telling Kositani to go and tell the DP. No matter how long it will take, we will hold you. We will hold you responsible for errors of commission or omission at the end of your term.
Do you think he should do away with the Big Four agenda and focus on corruption?
How do you get Big Four if you have no money? You tell me, how many houses are they going to build? And once again, I'm telling these guys in Parliament, government has no business building homes. Create an environment where we will build homes.
I agree. Although their defense, that's what they say they're doing. And Honorable Costello coming to you to get a reaction.
They are building 250,000 homes. Who will take those homes and at what rate of interest? Mortgage in Kenya is 14 upwards. Where can you have a home as a normal worker at 14%?
Yeah, that's true.
They should go and pass regulations or law that every bank, a condition in its license, that your portfolio, 3 or 4%, must go to mortgage at 5%.
I agree.
You see what I'm saying? If the difference is 5%, then allow all the expenses within 5% as an expenditure allowable for income tax purposes. So we tax people at source. So Kapoko will build homes, Kositani will build homes in Elgeyo Marakwet, he'll build in Kajiado, he'll build in Kisumu, and government will take over this.
Mathare.
Well, I'm saying Kisumu because of your origin.
My county was
So if we finalize, the Big Four will not happen.
End of story.
President Kenyatta has 2 budgets, if these guys tell you the truth. This year is 1920, then 2021. The other one will be politics.
Right.
How much money can he put in Big Four?
With those two cycles of budgets. Okay.
And you know, 900 billion, we are told. Now I hear it's different because the figures are always in the papers.
Okay.
I hear 900 billion is lost.
On the issue, on the issue of how long ODM, and when we talk about ODM, we talk about Raila, will stay in the handshake.
And are you giving us some knowledge you have which...
I mean, ODM is a one-man show. You've heard it from him. That Raila, so long as Raila is in it, he's in it.
He gives
so that is what, he says he gives them directions. They don't sit and discuss. But that is beside the point. But the reason why this handshake has been not moving and not gaining any traction is because ODM did not come in with both hands. They didn't put both hands on the table.
How?
Because they came in with one hand to shake President Uhuru and said, we'll work with you. The other hand, they were holding a dagger. We're going to deal with the deputy president. And that is a statement that is there. You have it on record. None other than Ali Hassan Joho, who is a deputy party leader of, and he said, Raila alituambia to support Uhuru, to pick William Ruto. If they come in with clean hands, put both hands on the table, then the handshake is a good thing. But also, to ride on what Senator here has said, that there has been good environment for business. That is good, because we know ODM is associated with violence. They have been in the streets. We had even an issue whereby somebody's matatu was banned. It was taken to some office in up the hill, Capitol Hill office, for ODM to pay, and that has gone down. We don't have any political violence. The environment is good. At one stage, I had people from my constituency who were traveling to Kisumu to go and get passports. They could not access Kisumu town. They had to travel back to Eldoret. And these are people their resources are limited. When they budget to go to Kisumu, they budget 2,000 shillings to go get their passports.
So the environment has changed.
The environment has changed and improved and peaceful. And I want to thank ODM for that. I want to thank Raila for putting down the tools of violence. But then on the other hand,
I think
I don't think that is
a fact.
I think
that is a fact. I will not take it back. It is a fact. It is a fact.
No,
you have to withdraw
you see, when you say tools of violence, you need to prove.
That is extremely defamatory.
You have had him saying he almost lost his legs in the
because
in the
we're
resist
fighting
movement.
for what is right.
In fact, our tear gas stores are full now. We're no longer using the tear gas.
This is a national channel. You need to be careful.
Yeah, you cannot come here and say tools of violence.
That is what ODM is known for. That's what I know them for.
Please finish your statement.
Yes, I have finished it.
You finished?
Yes.
Okay, we had a caller. I don't know if they're still on the line. Is that Ibrahim Mathenge? What's your question or comment, please?
Habari zenu?
Salama kabisa, labda wewe.
Nzuri sana. Mimi nataka kusema kitu kimoja.
Okay, endelea kwa ufupi tafadhali lakini.
Hatuwezi kupigana na ufisadi kama tumegawanyika makundi mawili. Katika Jubilee hawapigani na ufisadi. Jubilee wanapigana baadhi ya makundi. Katika tena ni wengi ambao hawapigani na ufisadi, wanampiga Uhuru na Baba. Basi hakuna ufisadi ambao wanapinga. Na kuna section nyingine ambao wamewekwa pale kuchukua pesa na kuweka kwa sababu ya mambo ya 2022. Hao ndio waizi wakubwa ambao tunataka kuwaondoa. Lakini tukidanganya tunapigana na ufisadi.
Wewe ungependa kuona
kuna baadhi wanapigana na Uhuru na Baba, na kuna baadhi ambao wanajipigania binafsi. Ufisadi utaendelea. Hao watu wote watolewe basi.
Asante sana. That's Ibrahim Mathenge there live from Mombasa giving us his views. He says you can't fight corruption with the kind of factions that we are seeing, you know, whether in government, whether in the opposition, whichever way you look at it.
Na ameongeza tuwapeleke wote nyumbani hao.
Tupeleke wote nyumbani.
Amesema.
Hiyo siku shika.
Amesema hapo mwisho.
Good. Zinzi, you had mentioned something before we took the break.
Yes, let's talk about the matters of by-election that we saw over the weekend, and perhaps I'll begin with a question that you took us on break with, and Honorable Antonio Oloch, I'll begin with you. Do you think, just like Nigeria, we should have a presidential election different vis-a-vis these other elections for governors, senators, etc.?
There are pros and cons to that. There are those who say that IEBC is incapable of handling 6 ballots and 6 elections at the same time. It is just too much. Either one will suffer or they do a shoddy job. The flip side of that, and I hope this discussion comes up, the BBI, I'm sure there are people who suggested in Parliament, let us stagger and have the Senate election and the presidential election and the MPs together. Let's have the governors and the MCAs on the other hand. I think Kenyans will decide the pros and cons. The only one thing that I need to clear in my mind, and if we do, then I would support that initiative, would be the potential for a presidential candidate who's already done with his election influencing who becomes MP. If they don't want you, then it means that you probably won't make it. You remember there's all these discussions about management or mismanagement of nominations. So imagine if a presidential candidate has no stake in the ballot himself, how much influence they could exert in subverting the will of the people. Yeah.
And for that to happen, the delinking of the presidential elections with these others, that means we'd have to change the constitution?
Yes, of course. That means, because remember in the constitution, it says that we shall have our election, the election of the president, on the first Tuesday of August. And the election for the members of parliament will be on the same day as that of the president. So the constitution totally has to be altered. It has to change.
Senator, let me come to you with this issue of the by-elections. A lot of the quote-unquote smaller parties, the ANCs and the Ford Kenya, feel as if are accusing rather ODM of oppressing them, and that it has reflected with these small wins.
You know, I think somehow I would agree with them. And I'll tell you why. During the last election, when NASA came together, we as ODM failed, and we as NASA actually failed to adhere to the nomination rules. If you look at the NASA coalition agreement, we had agreed to carry out joint nominations, you know, but we didn't. You know, we end up having sibling rivalry, and that's why we lost so many seats. You know, and I think in this case, we are learning from the mistakes. You know, there was a lot of interest which we have to be able to divorce from really the issue of leadership. And I think to say that ODM is paying, yes, we are paying for it because we are learning from it. We messed up. That's big. That's still call a spade. We did mess up, and I think now what we are seeing happening is that Kenyans are becoming much more sober. Kenyans in the last, just the last elections, the by-elections, voted for individuals, not really for the party. You know, I congratulate Honorable what's his name? Mawathe. You know, it's very painful. You've gone into an election, you've spent a lot of money, and then you go back into a by-election. You know, it's actually very, very painful. And so long as your colleagues there, you ought to support the person to be able to come in there.
So is it safe to say that NASA only exists because of the presidential seat? The
But that's a fact.
They've come together.
That is a fact.
But when it comes to other things, every man for himself.
Every man for himself.
The other thing
I think Ambadi has put it quite clear here.
That Senator is saying, in other words,
the African continent, we continue to keep an eye on Rwanda, even as they mark 100 days of commemoration of what happened 25 years ago. But let me reintroduce our panel for the sake of those who are joining us. Today, closer to me, we have Antonio Lodge, Member of Parliament for Mathare. On his side, William Kabogo, former Governor for Kiambu County. On this other end, we have Ledama Olekina, Senator for Narok County, as well as Caleb Kostani, Member of Parliament for Soy. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being here with us this morning. We'll take a look at what's happening on the local dailies. The Standard newspaper, this is what you will get. Page 11. Revealed final 6 minutes inside the doom of the Ethiopian flight. If you continue to keep an eye on that story, there's an update for you on page 11. Preliminary investigations gives a minute-by-minute account of the hell inside the cockpit of the Nairobi-bound jet that crashed, killing 157 on board. About 30 Kenyans lost their lives on that specific flight. Also, the big story, border time bomb, 1.3 million. That's the number of motorcycles registered as the February 2018. According to NTSA, this is in regards to motorcycles. They're referring to it as bittersweet. Many Kenyans have preferred riders to send on errands. We ride on them in remote places and to beat traffic. Their arrival has saved lives, created jobs, and transformed villages. But there is a darker side to border impulsion. New state report links them to crime, moral decency and insecurity. And of course, matters politics on page 12 of the Standard newspaper. Ruto fights Jubilee side that wants him out. Of course, we'll begin with that story, but first, the Daily Nation.
That's right. On the front page of the Daily Nation, at the very top, there's a picture of a Kenya Airways aeroplane and dreams by Kenya Airways of providing space for private jets and VIP parking. If their proposal to take over JKIA is approved, the national carrier wants to spend about 2.5 billion Kenya shillings to fix defects and modernize the airport. Is that the best solution for them? You decide. Catch that story on the back page of the Daily Nation. But the big story is Raila party paying for past sins. That's according to some leaders there. And there are quotes there by leaders from Wiper, CCM, ANC, Ford Kenya, and so forth. And at the bottom of the front page of the Daily Nation, a very sad story. Joy short-lived as mother of quintuplets and 2 infants die. And of course, we'll be talking about all these stories shortly. But first things first, let's get straight into our discussion. And I want to begin with you, Honorable Kabogo, get your reflections on what's been happening this weekend. There's a story that we ran just now, a call by a section of Jubilee MPs to the DPP and the DCI within the next 7 days.
You know,
conclude your cases.
My take is simple.
Good, go ahead.
Jubilee is a busybody. They want to take the country all over on different subjects.
Which
Jubilee? There was a serious, this Jubilee.
Which is this one?
The one
because we are told there's a section
party in power.
The party in power.
Yes. They're washing their dirty linen in public. They have nothing else to offer Kenyans. Kenyans want a table full of food. This is not what Jubilee is offering. They've been telling us about the fight against corruption. Now it seems like they've taken a back seat on corruption.
You took that from what? The president's statement last
yes,
week.
because where is the seriousness? Kenoti told us. He said he's taking some big fish to court. Where are the big fish? Big fish is only one governor. Was it?
Lenokulal.
Samburu. What is happening in this war? Have they given up the war? Is the war between the deputy president perceived to be the corrupt man? Have they stopped that war? That's why I said when I was here last. If the deputy president has stolen, arrest him. If he has not, protect him.
You seem to be talking from a bird's eye view. You're seeing things that maybe some Kenyans are not seeing.
No, I'm saying as every other
If you're saying Jubilee
if you
will
enter a matatu like I did today.
You came here by matatu?
Yes, I came in number 3.
You
didn't see my tweet? I entered the matatu, 5 o'clock in the morning. I wanted to hear what Kenyans are saying. And this is the story. Don't give us this rubbish. Tell us how you will improve our lives. How will you improve the Kenyan common man's life? This story about corruption, this story about Huduma, you know, all these things, Kenyans are tired. Yes. And I was wondering, am I going to register myself?
You're not sure?
And I was telling Kose here, my friend, tell us, what is this number about? What is it? How will it change my life? Yes.
So you don't agree with the Huduma number?
No, not I don't agree. How will it change?
Right.
Why do we need it? Yes. You know, they are propelling the story of 666. Why is it Kenyans think about these things that way? Yes.
All right, well,
kuliko kutumia hiyo pesa na hiyo namba na hiyo maneno, wangeweka kwa unga.
Watu wapate chakula.
Sasa wewe ukiwekwa saa hii kwa Huduma, my friend here said he has registered. How will it help him? Okay. I'm not saying don't register. I have an ID card. I have a driver's license. I have a social security number. You know, NSSF. What is it that they want to do with this number? Is it true it is for funding? Is it true that it is for DNA?
Okay.
What are all these stories?
Okay, fair enough. Let's get a reaction. You've asked them why. He says he's registered, and you can come in, talk a bit about the war on corruption. And the feeling by some that...
There is no war.
Okay. The feeling by some that there is no war. He has said it. Go ahead, Honorable Lodge.
Okay, let me start with the statement about the ultimatum. I think that is really just an expression of the frustration. People have been hearing threats and more threats, talk and more talk, and absolutely no action. So you can understand why people think that the president's speech in Parliament was underwhelming. The president on the other side, I think, trying to play a balancing act. I'm not so sure there is any more room for him to balance anything, because we've been on this Kimwere and Aror damn things for what now? 1 month, going to 2 months. Absolutely.
Now you can almost add Itare to that list.
Yes, add Itare. And you could see the frequency with which we were getting briefs and updates. They're slowly dying away and fizzling until, you remember just off air, somebody was saying newspaper people are like, the media are like salespeople. Until the next big story comes and Kimwere and Aror will be gone. Trust me, you will never see it again. So you can understand the frustration when some people are beginning to say, we will give you ultimatums. The next thing you will hear is that we are going to go on the streets. It's the level of frustration. The next thing you will hear is that we are going to carry out citizens' arrest. On the flip side of it, I am not too sure that you can direct the DPP. He is insulated under the Constitution. He is under the direction of no one. But that does not mean the DPP should go to sleep, because our Constitution has insulated him. He must do something, I am sure, that with all the infrastructure and all the facilities that he has some tangible evidence by which to be able to go with. Now, the second point that I wanted to make was on the issue about stepping aside, not stepping aside, because that's what Uhuru seems to have been trying to play balancing act on, and he seems to have been playing to the Ruto side of the, you could see in Parliament. That's my assessment. I think, beginning with the walk to Harambee House Annex, I think he was trying to cool down temperatures. And the anticipation on the DPP side of it was that, in fact, in Parliament, people were whispering that Leo, they were saying the other side of Kitai Leoka, that's the DPP side. Wacha ajaribu kuvuta mtu kazi moja. I think they had had some kind of protestation or threat to walk out or something like that. So when the president said, I know there is pressure, but I won't do this, you could hear the applause
from one side of the house.
And it was a seesaw. When he talked, we will still continue this fight. The other side of the house was... but I think the president must now, without directing DPP, demand that we have given you more time. You cannot continue in this vacuum.
But don't you not think the time limits on these corruption cases could help speed the cases in court? Maybe it should not be coming from politicians, the Jubilee MPs. It should be coming from a higher power to put pressure on DPP and DCI?
Yes, there is a balance between, we've said it before, election petitions have timelines. We managed to deal with the question of election petitions that are gone for 5 years. We have proposed here that once you are charged, there should be a time limit. But you cannot put time limits on DPP and say, if I am being investigated, investigate me in 10 days. You can't do that. Like he has said, if somebody is corrupt, charge him and arrest him. If he's not corrupt, let's move on. But let's not make people be in this space of a make-believe that there is something. And on our newspapers, they were all bombarding us with stories about Kimwarer and Aror, and we believed there is something. If there is something, let's go to court.
Right. Let's go to court.
Yeah.
Senator Ledama, do you also agree?
How much time do you require to check where money has been taken? Money leaves the government account to an individual's account. From there to his wife, or to his bodyguards, or to this guy who flies to Kayole. How much time does the DPP want?
To
Kayole to go home. And he can't use traffic. He can't use motor vehicle.
What are you talking about?
The NHIF guy. Remember that guy who was
how much time
that employee?
And he comes on TV and tells us like a beauty queen. Ati tutawakaranga DPP. What time does why does he find time to come to us and tell us stories about what he's going to do? Cannot telling us we have big fish. Who is big fish?
Okay, let's drop in the rest. Senator Ledama, do you agree with him when he says that there is no war on corruption?
I think the biggest problem we have in this country is that we like talking too much and very little action. That one, I agree with him. I think the president means well, but the problem is that even when you look at the Constitution, and Luach can tell us this, is that it's a little bit conflicting because there are two articles which conflict. And I think that is why these people are coming up with the issue of ultimatums. If you look at Article 157, it's very clear that the person who can be able to direct the Inspector General is the DPP. When you look at Article 245, Section 4, it says no person may direct the Inspector General to carry out investigation or any other part. So that is why you find that some people are saying, well, we're giving the president ultimatum of 7 days. The president is not in the business of firing people. The president is not above the law. He's subject to the Constitution, which is there. So I think I agree with Honorable Kabogo in one way. We need to stop talking. We need to start action. We talk too much, we do very little. And this is why I keep on telling the president that he is going to fail in every attempt that he either tries to take Kenyans forward in terms of the Big Four agenda, in terms of corruption cases. Let us see action.
Should that action not come from the president himself? In 2015, he gave a sort of his State of the Nation address. He mentioned about 100 people. This time round, Kenyans really expect to see more from him when it comes to corruption, which we didn't. I
think the president may take the country to a certain direction. But you know that the Constitution, again, is very clear. It doesn't matter whether you're in office or you're out of office. If you misuse public funds, the law is an ass, as they say it. You will be subject to the law. You will still be able to pay and account for every single penny, whether you're in office or you're out of office. So I think the best thing that the president can do is to support these institutions, and also build their capacity. Because one of the biggest problems that I see in this institution is that they lack capacity. That's number one. We talk about forensic investigation. Like Honorable Kabogo said, how long does it take to really investigate a matter? If you look at the money trail, it's very simple for you to follow through. This issue of money leaving this country, or rather leaving, the Federal Reserve Bank with money which is reserved for Kenya to pay for all these dams, you can be able to follow the trail and be able to prosecute people. I think one of the biggest problems we have is that I think people might think that Kenyans are gullible, and that they forget very easily, and then that Kenyan may want to hear that, someone big is being arrested. I've also been on, I've been on record saying that I would like to see somebody senior being prosecuted for corruption. But I think evidence and facts are very stubborn.
Okay.
Any matter we undertake to investigate, we must be supported by clear evidence.
Fair enough. Let me allow Honorable Kostani to come in. He's been scribbling a lot of notes since we started this discussion. Kindly care to share some of them with us?
Yes, I think a lot of people misunderstood the president when he gave his State of the Nation address.
Okay.
And I
what's
think
your
the
interpretation?
reason why you see the DCI and the DPP have kept off the media is because they are following what the president said. The president said the fight against corruption, in fact, the title of his speech was not turning back if it was to be given a title. And he said, we are not going to fight corruption using vigilante and newspaper headlines. So I think the DPP has retreated to his office to go and wait for DCI to give him proper investigated reports. And from there on, they will swing into action. It is not for the DPP and the DCI to hold press conferences. Let them leave that to us politicians and those who are in other positions of leadership. So I think the war on corruption is continuing. It's just that my brothers here seem to be used to reading the newspaper. They want to see Kimwarere Dam, they want to see so and so.
Let me ask you a question then. If they have changed strategy as per the president's address, but they're supposed to be independent, why would they stop one thing because the president has said this or that, and they're supposed to operate without?
If you look at what we have been saying all along, is that, and that is why we came up with the idea or the perception that the war on corruption had been politicized. It should never be a matter of headlines, who is being investigated or what case is being investigated. It should be, we should learn about it when I have been arrested, I've been arraigned in court, then you tell the headlines, Honorable Kositanya has been arraigned in court, this is his crime. But you don't tell me I'm investigating Honorable Aluoch. When he's still a free man, he's still out there going about it. That is not the way to fight corruption. So I think they're doing the right thing. And you can also tell from the president's speech that he's also been agonizing about what was going on in the country. The other thing is that the president gave a very, very clear indication that the fight on corruption will continue. There is no turning back, but let us do it within the framework of the law. That is, I think, where we are. So I think everybody who is expecting somebody to be arrested, somebody to be sacked, just hold your horses.
Right.
If it is to happen, it will happen.
Okay, and we want to encourage your viewers at home to also be part of this conversation. Text us on 22422 or call in on 0719999999. Let me come back to you, Honorable Kabogo. You were saying that, in your opinion, rather, what do you think is stopping or slowing down the war on corruption in terms of the investigative agencies doing a speedy?
It is the politics that they are bringing into the war.
The politics.
Yes.
Who are they?
Them, those who are fighting corruption.
Who are fighting corruption?
My friend, the leader is the president.
Okay. I think there is time for us to introspect, and I want to close on the issue of corruption because you were speaking as my closing comments. There is something that has happened which I think in Parliament we need to inquire on the Aror and Kimwarere Dam issue. And I think the CS, if he's listening, they need to answer this, and the chair of budget. While the investigations are going on about how we did these payments to companies whom we pay in advance and for nothing done, and I think senators brought it out. Under Article 203, I am told Treasury has gone on and paid some more money. That's why you hear the DP continue to say this dam will continue. Under what circumstances have we paid, released money?
Confirm this?
I can confirm. The people in budget committee, and I have documents they've shown me, money has been made under Article 203 to pay money before approval to 2 projects which are at the center of corruption investigations.
This is now?
Yes, it happened this time when we're investigating. And this is now being brought to Parliament for us to rubber stamp advance payments on 2 key corruption scandal dams.
So as legislators, as lawmakers, will you...
And I hope the budget committee will refuse.
Am I not vindicated now that there is no war on corruption? Am I not vindicated now?
Let the viewer think about that.
The laws allow them to spend money on matters that are of policy, to spend without approval from Parliament and seek approval later. Seek approval doesn't, the law does not say when you are denied approval what happens. It is a matter of spending now because you will not be allowed by Bunge to spend then.
But the propriety of
you
paying
understand what I'm saying?
2 companies under corruption investigation, they've been wound up. How do we do that?
How does that happen?
And one company is broke.
Yes.
Tweets.
How do we do that?
Tweets. We've been talking about tweets. We now have them. Let's take a look at some of them.
And the guy paying has written statements for 3 days.
He has answered 300 questions.
Good.
Yes.
Hang on there. Let me start. Critica says, I think you're most connected to the real issues. Can you ask politicians about Kenya's industrialization strategy? A clear method of implementation, if at all there is. It is the leap the country needs to be exactly like Japan and all. It has been tested and it works.
Japan has been mentioned since that conversation. All right.
Sorry for another day. Go ahead.
Lazaro, you say what happened to Kenya is a clear indication that common man getting wiser day by day. We must now change from politics based on attacking an individual to issue-based one.
Okay, thank you, engineer, for that. Another tweet here, we have Chris Risk, okay? There are honest politicians. They haven't won the elections yet.
Okay. Where are they hiding then?
No, they are honest because they haven't won. When you win, you become dishonest.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
All right, let's take a look at Wamalwa. You say high time for Kenya to thank Or maybe think.
No, thank.
Thank.
Whoever said.
Whoever said.
Choices have consequences.
We are learning it through a hard way.
So Kenya's choices have consequences is what Wamalwa. Okay, so that's what we have. We need to wrap this up because there's a lot more that's been happening in the paper. Someone had a question there about industrialization. I can get one of you to just react to that, then we move on.
Okay,
go ahead.
Just briefly, you know, if you listen to the president's speech, and this is why some of us question this.
The speech where? In Parliament?
In Parliament. He alluded to a fund which is designed to support small and medium enterprises.
Yes.
You know? And then there's this whole business of Huduma number.
Do you see a connection?
You know, for me, yes.
What's the connection?
You know, because you see, and these members of Parliament here, and Governor Kabogo will tell you that for you to be able to make money now, you have got to look at masses. You know, we have a serious lacuna in law in terms of interest rates when it comes to small money being lent out.
SMEs, to SMEs.
This money being given out by telcos. And that is why I'm one of the strong proponents for the separation of services like M-Pesa with Safaricom. Very, very different. Because I think if you're a financial entity, you must be regulated by CBK. If you are a telco, you must be regulated by CAK. Let me finish. So this issue where this fund, how will that fund get to the people? You know, there is a Huduma card, a Huduma number.
Is there a Huduma card?
You know, yeah, there's a Huduma card. I'm sure there's a Huduma card somewhere.
They have that. But
you know?
Go ahead.
So for me, I think we have to be very honest, you know, and tell Kenyans the truth that we want to destroy their chances of ever elevating. The gap between the rich and the poor will continue being wider because the rich in business are coming up with all schemes of going after their small little money. Right now, how do you explain an institution, or rather a business, lending more money than 10 financial institutions combined in a month? So and it's lending it to small people. Scheme. To me, I would actually say so.
Let me ask.
Okay,
I would actually say so because I don't understand all these numbers we have. And also, if Huduma number was not a money-making scheme, why do you violate the process set out by law? Why do you amend the Registrations of Persons Act as a miscellaneous amendment and you take it to the President to be asserted? You refuse to take it to the Senate to be considered.
I know we have to move on, but I have one quick question. Now that you say that the fund and the Huduma number are sort of linked, my question is the Huduma number and 2022 linked?
I think it is. I think they are linked. You've got to know. We are talking about sensors. We're talking
collection
about
of data.
National data. Let me tell you something, which is a fact. Right now, Africa is the only continent which is rich in terms of databases. If you go to the West, in fact, when I went to America the first time, you know, the moment my name was out there, I started receiving offers for credit cards and all that stuff. You know, now in Kenya, that system is back to Kenya now, where so long as somebody has got numbers, if I walk right now to any big bank or rather big financial institution, I tell them I have 20 million customers. They will give me anything I want.
The data of
I have the data of 20 million customers. You know, because ask yourself one question. This database of Huduma number, which I completely detest, is not only looking at Kenyans, but is also looking at foreigners living in this country. So it's about numbers.
Governor, do you see a link between the Huduma number and 2022?
Let me tell you simply. Government has no business lending SMEs. They can leave this to the private sector. Allow the private sector to lend to Kenyans at a subsidized interest rate. If the plan of this Huduma number is to lend money to Kenyans, it's a scam. It's coming.
But you still haven't answered my question on whether the Huduma number is linked to the elections that is going to come.
From all what they are saying, these guys are in Parliament. You have heard what he has just said. Why would I think otherwise? And they are saying it there.
Maybe my only question is,
do you have why the DP refused to launch in Kakamega?
You know, but why do you need, I cannot speak for the DP.
You're not tired of bringing the DP
to
anything.
You're not tired of bringing Rao every time.
The guy who can tell us why the DP did not do it is probably Kositane, because he's a close ally of the DP. But I'm saying this, and I'll say this.
My only question is, where's the proof? Whether it's Huduma number 2022, Huduma number lending to SMEs.
Why is it that we have not been told properly what this number is for? Really, I have not been told. Okay. I have not registered because I'm not convinced. I want to be told. First, what is it that is here? You know, they start by saying this is not a 666. Who is talking about 666? You guys in Parliament, what have you discussed about this number? You represent Kenyans. You represent your constituents.
We have not discussed it because it has not been brought to us.
Fine.
So, it was a miscellaneous amendment.
If it is not sanctioned by Parliament, who is pushing for it? Is it true that they are going to lend money to SMEs through a particular bank and Central Bank will back that bank? That's a rumor?
Serious.
Why are we discussing this matter as a matter of national interest through media, through rumors? Why can't they take it to National Assembly?
Fair enough. Then because we don't have a government representative here, let's leave that topic
for now. So can we say then we fire these MPs? Completely, all of them.
No, you have to separate. You fire the members of the National Assembly because they are the ones who sanitized it.
And you leave. Don't get scared. Nobody can fire you as a member of Parliament.
We need to quickly touch on Rwanda.
Yes.
We need to quickly touch on Rwanda. I'll begin with you, Senator Ledama. They're marking the 25th anniversary, rather. And for me, it's my particular question is that during that time in 1994, we saw UN and Belgium international members doing nothing about it. Kofi Annan even said that was one of his biggest regrets, right? But then we saw Uganda march in and sort of try to sensitize, if I should use that word, what was happening. Is this a reflection of the African continent as African members that perhaps we need to look out for each other, be our own brothers' keepers?
First of all, let me put it this way. I have to congratulate the Rwandans for being so resilient, you know, and agreeing to put away this issue, this nonsense of tribalism, and coming together. I spent about an hour and 20 minutes about 2 weeks ago with President Kagame, and he gave us insights on the historical and geographical challenges that they have as a country. It is true that the international community failed, because that time there was a letter written to Kofi Annan about the genocide in Rwanda, but he ignored it. In fact, and you could see, because when I was in Rwanda, I had an opportunity to be able to go through all the history. You could see that the international community actually took out everyone from the country, including animals, dogs, and everything, but they left Rwandans to die. You know, so I think it's a lesson that we as a country must learn. This issue of tribalism will not take us anywhere. We have to think as a nation so that we can be able to move forward. If you see what is happening in Rwanda right now, because of their resilience, there's a lot of discipline. You know, you cannot call somebody in Rwanda a Hutu or a Tutsi. In fact, that one, you will go to jail for that. You've got to, now we have to think about it, even their political system. And that's why we in Kenya have got to learn. Right now, Kagame being the president, the constitution there only allows him to have 50% of his party as cabinet. The other 50% has got to come from the opposition. That is an issue of inclusivity. So if you ask me whether we as Africans should start becoming our brothers' keepers, that is culture. That is our culture. What we need to do is to stay away from all these nonsense of, you know, heavy democracy and all that stuff, and then now focus and see what will happen in this country. How can we take it? And let me tell you, despite their geographical challenges, despite their historical challenges, the future of Rwanda is very bright. I look at it as the Singapore of Africa. And they're not turning back.
If it's a Singapore of Africa,
7.2%. You know, it's going to be a Singapore of Africa. And I'm telling you, when you go into that country, because I had an opportunity to travel from Kigali all the way to Kivu. I mean, the environment, conservation, the cleanness. When you talk to people in Rwanda, they will tell you it is government policy. We have to adhere to the government policy. I dream for the day that we in this country, as Kenya, can be able to say that's a government policy and we go with it. But it's a government policy that has been discussed by parliament, has been discussed by people, so public participation has been, you know, so that we own it. But now, the reason why some of us are fighting certain things is because we don't own them. we were not included in it. We cannot be reduced to what
the only thing that we haven't
as rubber stamps.
Yes.
We can't.
Okay, let's know. Honorable Kostani, your reflections on what's happening in the region, even as we wrap up?
Well, much respect to the people of Rwanda for having picked up from a very low point in the history of their nation. And right now, we refer to Rwanda as an example. We wish Kenyans would behave the way the Rwandese behave in terms of discipline. Even I've seen today's headline about the border. Yes. When you see the border and transport system in Rwanda, everybody follows the rule of law to the letter. And I think we need to learn a lot as Kenyans from the Rwandese. And I really don't have much to say on this. I just say we congratulate them, we pray for them, and we wish that all African leaders should emulate the Rwanda leadership, and that we may focus on the issues that affect our people. But as Kenyans, let us change our discipline. Let us be disciplined in every area that we are operating in, so that we may change the way we do things.
I associate myself with the comments of my two brothers here. The only thing that they haven't said about Rwanda is zero tolerance to corruption.
Yes.
There is no corruption in Rwanda because the president of Rwanda is a leader. He is not a politician. That's one thing I learned myself personally from President Kagame himself. From speaking to him, I had a chat with him, and I asked him, what makes you Kagame?
You asked him that?
I asked him, because I couldn't understand. In Africa, we have a person like him. And he said, it's because I'm a leader, I'm not a politician.
Is he someone you'd like to emulate as a president?
Yes, and I asked him, what is the difference between a leader and a politician? This was in Naivasha, during some governors' forum. And he told me, my friend, you know, here in Kenya, you have very many politicians.
Even on this table right now.
You lack leaders. And I said, what is the difference? And he said, leaders think about the next generation. But politicians think about the next general election. And this is why we are talking about 22 in Kenya. Kenya is about elections, elections, elections. Where will these people be? Will Raila be president? Will Uhuru be prime minister? Will DP be? You know, this is the thing that makes me want to go to Rwanda and live there.
And leave Kenya.
Yes.
You know, they have fought. They have realized that they cannot get anything from fighting. And I do agree with Kagame when he says, this thing that happened here will never happen again. Do we need to go to war to understand these things? When will we stop these things about elections? Why is it that we are discussing 2022? On this table, we should be talking about Kieleweke, I don't know, Tangatanga, you know, all these things.
Yes.
They are not necessary. It's just that we don't have leaders.
Wow. All right.
I have learnt a new word from Governor Kabogo. You remember Governor Sonko when he said Uhuru Kenyatta? I have learned something from him, 2022.
Yeah.
2022. So let me wrap up here by saying, you know, sometimes historical disasters and things that happen to a country actually shape to enrich those countries. If you look at Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki are the key pillars that inform how they organize themselves, from their politics to their culture to their economy and their neutrality in international affairs, including not having an army and stuff like that. And I think Rwanda, the Rwanda genocide kind of has made Rwanda what it is today. And there are two things that we can learn at this time in our history. One is about inclusivity. Yeah, they make very deliberate efforts to try and include everyone. And then the issue of gender, which has eluded us. Remember that the issue of gender parity, they're at 50 something.
With Ethiopia.
So, with Ethiopia. So it is for this reason that Kenya does not need to slide into Rwanda or slide into Hiroshima or Nagasaki for us to be able to learn and be where these two countries are. And it is for this reason that we must continue to support this initiative, because what is the alternative? Yeah, we must support it because every election cycle, we are that much closer to going to the Rwandan way. That is why we must stick in the BBI. The question is, how much political resolve is there so that we can be able to keep it and make it work.
Thank you so much. That is Honorable Anthony Oloch, Member of Parliament for Mathare. We also had Honorable William Kabogo, former governor for Kiambu County.
First governor.
First governor.
He's still the governor.
He's still
Once a governor.
Once a governor,
once a president, always a president.
Once a prime minister, always a prime minister.
Right.
Fair enough. Thank you for that correction.
And also Honorable Caleb Kositani, Member of Parliament for Soye, Senator for Narok County, Ledama Olekina. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time and your contribution to the conversation that we just had.